Hello everyone and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production. This audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics article. This audio podcast as part of a Raptor Storm. This audio podcast as part of a Platinum edition. In this audio podcast, looking at Crouzons syndrome and the variations, sort of the variations, if you like, in and around craniosynostosis. So evidence indicates and informs that there is a localized forms of craniosynostosis, and there's generalized forms of craniosynostosis. So in around the localized, there's is where those diagnosed would have an asymmetrical 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 skull, and there's a coronal, sort of what's referred to as a coronal suture only. Then there's and then around localized formation of craniosynostosis is where there is a long narrow skull as well, a long narrow skull formation, and this is and the and this formation, a form of craniosynostosis is where there's a sagittal suture only. And then in around the generalized formation, generalized form of craniosynostosis, there is multiple sutures. So number one, there's multiple sutures resulting in microcephaly, and also developmental delay. And then there's genetic syndromes, for example, when there's Crouzons syndrome, associated with exophthalmos, which is another sort of condition, that is sort of linked with a form of craniosynostosis. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics article. This audio podcast as part of a Raptor Storm. And this audio podcast as part of a Platinum edition. And this audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production.